Hey guys, welcome to my channel Emerging World Order 2025. And in today's video, we're going to talk about BRICS World Order. See, up until now, I have made lots of videos on BRICS, de-dollarization, geopolitics, natural resource, all kinds of different subjects, right? Especially BRICS. Now, we have talked in BRICS, what we have talked about? We have talked about how BRICS is changing the world, how BRICS is changing the global south, how BRICS supposed to get the reforms, how BRICS is promoting de-dollarization, how all these things are happening, right? We talk about all these things all the time. But there's one thing that we have not actually consolidated in one and talked about it specifically in one particular video. So today I decided that I'm gonna make a video on that as well so that we have a consolidated uh, video or talk on this particular subject. And the subject is that please do like and subscribe and let's get started. See, the subject is that in what areas BRICS actually challenges the West and in what areas it falls short, because that's a valid point, right? Because this is this is something, this is one area that pretty much everybody who makes the video, anybody who is pretty savvy on geopolitics and the world order, all these things, who actually tracks these things, they can tell you that they will talk about how BRICS, that some talks about, some talk about BRICS shortcomings, some talk about how BRICS is challenging the West, specifically United States, like that, right? But nobody actually ever talks about how, I mean, in all in one, right? And that's what the whole thing is. Like I was like, okay, let's consolidate this thing in one and let's see what exactly comes out of it, right? And this is going to give us a much better idea as to where the BRICS is actually headed, all right? So I have just created this consolidated list which I'm gonna talk about, and this is solely based on what we see on the ground. Okay, so let's get started. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so BRICS World Order, where BRICS challenges the US and where it doesn't. So for those who don't know, or for those who are new to the channel or to the whole BRICS thing, see, BRICS has been on the scene since 2006. Okay, and of late, BRICS has started to pick up the pace, and it was bound to pick up the pace. Why? Because uh, as the because of all the financial instability and the economic instability that was caused by the unipolar currency, that was a serious problem for the world, especially for the emerging markets. Why? Because emerging markets try really hard to grow their economy, and then something happens in the realm of dollar, and something that hurts them. Why? At the end of the day, when after the Bretton Woods system was introduced, and then after the dawn of petrodollar, the whole idea was that, okay, that dollar will be print, and that printing and the burden will be carried by the rest of the world by dollar recycling. Okay, even though the global West tried different means and different methods to really generate the use of dollar in the market, so that a thorough and proper recycling can be done. But unfortunately, uh, that was never completely successful. Okay, why? Because one way or the other, all the large economies were became the major shareholder of that mechanism. But the countries that were small, countries that couldn't diversify their exports or had no means of export, they relied heavily on tourism or something like that, some other means, right? They suffered whenever there was a pandemic, whenever there was some sort of issue, global issue, they suffered. Okay, so that's why uh, The BRICS was introduced. BRICS started to pick up the pace over the period of time after the 2008 crisis, uh, to really address this issue. And then there were lots of UN United Nations reforms that were never done. So BRICS started to talk about all that. All right. Now, if you look at the economic power of the BRICS, then BRICS has full members. Okay. And whenever this data that you see or here, like 45%, by PPP, GDP, this, that, all that we see, all the data is only for the that is taken from the full members. Okay, full members. That's it. It doesn't include partners or observers or whatnot. Only full members. Okay. So BRICS now includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, along with new members or invitees: Egypt, Iran, UAE, Ethiopia, and Saudi Arabia. Okay. Then you have collectively the bloc represents 45% of the global population and controls, right? And if you look at it, then it controls the 43% of the global oil production. It controls 44% of the grain production. And here's the interesting thing about BRICS. BRICS countries produce 44% of the global grain, and they consume 44% of the global grain too, meaning that they don't need to export what they produce. Then BRICS global contribution in the global, say BRICS contribution in the global economy is around 42%, 42 to 44%. Whereas if you look at G7, their total contribution is probably 29%, give take. So that's why BRICS became important. Now, BRICS became important, then of course your competitors, your rivals, or somebody who actually already is on the top, they will definitely have a problem with it, right? Why? Nobody wants a competitor. Nobody wants to lose their, so-called crown, right? So, but BRICS is emerging as a challenger to that crown. And so now we want to sort that out as to is it really the case, or it's all just a buzz created by the media, or created by a bunch of YouTubers like me and somebody else, and make videos, sensational videos like this, and uh, gain views, right? Is that the case? So for those who don't know, right, so BRICS is also the major rare earth supplier also. Then global foods and metal exports and all, I already talked about that, right? So BRICS is actually is a major commodity power, okay? And BRICS is trying to convert this into financial and geopolitical leverage. That's the whole idea behind it. Okay. So so now the question really is, coming back to our actual point, after a little bit of BRICS introduction, that was for somebody who doesn't know much about it, right? So the question is where BRICS really challenges the US or the global West, or let's just say G7, because I think that uh, taking one particular country into the scene, it's pretty, I would say it's unfair. So we talk in terms of blocks and the groupings. And blocks and groupings we talk, and then we see how all that works out. Hmm? So here are some of the points. See, number one is the de-dollarization in trade. De-dollarization now brings because of the geopolitical, uh, because they want to be diplomatically correct, and they want a deniability also. Because whenever lots of these BRICS countries are questioned, because if you look at it, if you look at it, then these major BRICS countries, they also work with global West too. So anybody who thinks that BRICS is just going to work among itself, and that's it, BRICS is something, is the big deal, and this and that. But see, reality is this, that lots and lots of these BRICS countries, in fact, I had the data for this as well, that lots and lots of these BRICS countries, they work with their with their Western partners as well. Like China works with Europe, China works with US, India works with Europe, India works with US, like that. So everybody works with everybody. It's not that except for Russia maybe, and there are a few other countries, but at least these major countries, they do work with everyone. Okay, in fact, Russia says that, yeah, we have de-dollarized and this and that, all that, blah blah blah. But the reality is that Russia also behind the scene works with the West. Okay, there are still exports from Russia that are made to US or the Europe. They are done that too. They're doing it too. Even the European Union basically tries really really hard, including the US, to tell India or any other country that don't buy oil from Russia, don't buy Russian oil and whatnot. But the reality is that they do it themselves behind the scenes. Why? Because otherwise it's going to create pressure on the market. Okay, but BRICS has been successful in this as far as de-dollarization. But I say national trade in national currencies, because trade in national currencies has a lot more scope and a lot more wider impact on the goal, or say positive impact on the goal that BRICS is trying to achieve. Okay, so if you look at it, then so BRICS has successfully said done de-dollarization, or it's not. I mean, it is actually promoting it. It's supporting it. Like for example, Russia and China, they trade in ruble and yuan. Then India and UAE, rupee and dirham. Then they introduced BRICS introduced BRICS Pay, and then there is a talk of uh, BRICS based payment system too, even though it's not going to be the currency the way we are talking about, or the way you or I, or the way lots of people think, right? The way lots of people think, it's not going to be like that. Okay, what it's going to be is stable coins. Okay, and now if you go look at it globally, you'll see that everybody, pretty much every major player that's out there, is moving towards the stable coin. They're tokenizing their assets. Okay, so BRICS has, if you look at BRICS has done that. Then you have India and Indonesia. They have signed the deal to trade in national currencies. India and Nigeria have signed the trade deal to do the trade in national currencies, like that. So trade in national currencies, in other words, de-dollarization, is becoming more and more prominent, because at least in lots and lots of things, where the countries see that, yeah, if by trading in national currencies they can release the pressure from their local economy or their export or their forex reserve challenges and all whatnot, then it's best to trade in national currencies, and that's what they are doing. Okay, it has nothing to do with uh, the perception that some of these politicians have created, like Lindsey Graham and whatnot, right? That BRICS is there to destroy the dollar. No, BRICS is not there to destroy the dollar. Actually, dollar is destroying dollar. How you're destroying the dollar? By being corrupt. That's what it is. By being corrupt, you print all that dollar, and then you don't even invest it. You just eat it, or put it in some foreign bank or some hidden bank account somewhere else. You block the money in any way, any which way that you want to do it. You just block the money. Then you go and apply sanctions or impose sanctions on other countries. Then you impose lots of other you violate all kinds of trading rules and whatnot, and those trading rules that eventually hurt you. So no, dollar is actually hurting the dollar. BRICS is not hurting the dollar. BRICS is only doing whatever they are doing to protect their economic sanctity. That's all it is. So this is something, as soon as these politicians start to understand and grasp this concept, I think it will be better. But fortunately, when people have too much money, they stop caring about the little guy. Okay. So last and the effect is used. The effect is, first of all, the effect is felt by the people at the lower level, and then it goes up, then up, and then up, like that. So it's like heat, right? So you have cold is at the at the bottom, and the heat is up top, right? So from bottom you start to see like this cycle happen like this, and that's exactly how it is. So so BRICS is basically promoting the de-dollarization, and this perception is something is created because by the Western politicians that BRICS is destroying the dollar. Basically, they're creating this perception so that they can hide their own incompetence. I mean, look at what happened with Doge. Elon Musk admitted that if he goes hard on the corruption, then chances are they will close his case or close his file too. So so uh so a guy who was very close to who was watching all these corruption, all these things, dollar being abused, dismantled all over the place, and destroyed and abused all over, right? So all those things he saw it very closely, so he knew what exactly was going on before he walked away from it, right? So the perception that was created, that has been created, is just to just hide their own incompetence. Anyways, so the national good, so BRICS is doing this a good job on trading in national currencies. I mean, it is far more prominent today than it was 10-15 years ago. Even though countries were doing it, but it wasn't that much, it was all temporary. But now it seems like it is more permanent, meaning that if there's those two traders decide that okay, we are going to trade in national currencies, we are not going to do trade in dollar, then seems like that they're going to stick with it. It's not like they're going to just do it for 4 or 5 years and then after that go back to dollar or whatnot. No, that's not the case now. Then the second thing that BRICS has done a very good job is on resource nationalism and the commodity control. As I said that earlier, that BRICS controls pretty much. BRICS is a natural resources powerhouse. Okay, so you can look into it. If, by example, if you look at it, like for example, Russia, Iran, and UAE, they are energy superpowers, and I'm not even counting Saudi Arabia, right? Why? Because Saudi Arabia simply bolted, right? They just chickened out or whatever you want to call it, but they had to. I mean, whatever they have to do, whatever they thought is good for their national security or whatnot, so they did that. But all in all, uh, if you look at Russia, Iran, and UAE, they are energy superpowers. China dominates in rare earths and lithium supplies. And then if you look at India and Brazil, they both dominate in agriculture and then natural resources. Like India has iron ore, lots and lots of iron ore. India has top-notch steel. China has top-notch steel. All these things are there. Hmm? And now they have, so BRICS is slowly and slowly, not slowly, but BRICS has now realized that uh, that they were actually get, the term lowballed. So BRICS was getting lowballed all along. That it was their natural resources, and then they would use their natural resources to manufacture in their own backyard, and then eventually to export to the countries that don't even consume. Actually, most of the consumption is nothing but waste. And why only reason they were exporting was because of this unipolar currency model. There was only one reserve currency that was being used. That whole reserve currency idea was introduced so that there is a unipolar currency model and the unipolar world. That's what the whole thing was. Otherwise, why would you want to move to a reserve currency model in the first place? Because world was never a one unipolar. There was never a unipolar world as such. World was always multipolar, different currencies. But back in the day, they used to trade in gold and silver and all that, so it all worked out. Everybody agreed to it. But when the whole actual concept of currency came into picture, the concept money evolution, and I'm working on a podcast on this thing too, the story of money. Okay, so pretty much I think probably this weekend I'm gonna do a podcast on that. Okay, the coming weekend, Saturday or something. So that's going to be a very interesting podcast. Actually, I've been working on this for a very long time. It takes time to do something like that, and because it's complicated anyways. So 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 the whole idea was introduced that the reserve currency does not mean anything else. It's all BS technically. If you look at the reserve currency, simply means that a unipolar world. That's what it is. My currency, I will print it, you guys just absorb it. Whatever that I create, you absorb it. So that was the whole thing. But now they've realized that no, it's pointless. Let's because at the end of the day, if the currency is not even gold backed, right? If currency is not gold, but what BRICS countries are basically doing? They are giving away their natural hard assets, the hard commodities, the natural resources for what? Paper, right? That paper that has no value technically. So they were like, okay, why even bother about the paper? Let's focus on the digital assets, digital currencies, the crypto and all that. So that's why they moved into alternative financial institutions. What the alternative financial institution did, this BRICS has done in a very short time, if you ask me. Okay, in a very short time, BRICS has done a pretty good job of introducing its own financial infrastructure, financial institutions, and I would say certain financial uh, say financial techniques for investments and loan payments or contingency reserve format, right, to pay off the debt servicing and whatnot. So they have introduced these things. They have done a very good job of introducing their own financial infrastructure. Now if you look at it, there is a rise of alternative payment systems. There is a serious rise of alternative payment systems. Just 10 years ago, you wouldn't hear about lots and lots about alternative payment systems. Countries had their own alternative payment systems, but you wouldn't hear about it. Why? Because the reserve banks were directly linked to the SWIFT payment system, right? But now what do you hear? You hear the the payment system of India, then you talk about there is a payment system of China, there's a payment system of Russia, there's payment system of Iran. Hmm? Then above all, there was a M-Bridge was there, M-Bridge project was there that was vetoed or sanctioned by the global West, and so they dropped the idea. Then BRICS Pay was introduced. BRICS Pay was actually demoed in Kazan summit. Then there is a payment system called UPI that challenges the Visa and all. It's actually bigger than Visa now. So that's unified payment interface. That belongs to India. Then there is another. UAE has its own payment mechanism, and not to mention UAE also has its own crypto-based payment system too. So there are lots of different payment systems, and what they're doing is that these countries are working together and using those payment systems for trade in national currencies. And this is how you know the trade in national currencies is growing. How? By counting the alternative payment systems. When you see the number that were the numbers that were 10 years ago versus the number today in alternative payment systems, you can tell that yeah, this is what it is for. Otherwise, why would you even have the alternative payment system or payment mechanism, right? So BRICS has done a very good job of it, and in a very fast paced manner. Okay. And one thing that I want to talk about a little bit on the payment systems. Okay, see, there are, like I said, every time you a order is processed, okay, and the invoice is created or whatnot, then it's a two-step mechanism. One is the payment, other one is settlement. Payment is where you have the goods that you purchase, and the number. So at that point, the price of that good is just a number, and the card that you use or the way the mechanism of the payment that you make, if it's not cash, then what happens is that payment is also a number. Okay, those numbers, they go into the payment system. What is a payment system? payment system is nothing but it's a messaging platform, meaning that it takes that message, and that message is actually processed, and it is sent to the settlement partner or the bank that is going to do the settlement. What is settlement? Settlement is where the person, the trader actually gets the money in hand. Hmm? So meaning that if I have the credit card, the credit card is not a hard cash. It just when you swipe it, then it's just the number that are being digitally moved around as a byte code. Hmm? And then when you use that messaging platform takes that number and moves it to the settlement platform. Settlement platform takes that thing and routes that request to the actual entity, the bank that is going to perform the settlement. What will that settlement be, or the entity be? The business bank account of that particular trader, hmm, where the money has to go. Now, if trader wants to cash in, they can cash in. So, so settlement meaning you have to have the money in hand. That's what settlement actually means. Okay, or in hand or in your bank account, so that the trader or the individual can say that, yeah, the money is, I got the money. Okay, that's what settlement means. All right. So BRICS has done a pretty good job of it. Yeah, initially they faced some hurdles. They faced some hurdles in the beginning, but uh then they figured it out how to do it. In fact, now the situation is that Russia, India, and Iran, all these countries, they have figured out how to actually eliminate the use of a third party currency for exchange rate calculations. Okay, they have figured that out as well. So so now that's how now they are going to process their own payment. This is why now actually India and Russia and all these countries are more comfortable in 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 trading in national currencies. Okay. Now, the another point that BRICS has challenged everything, the existing norm, is the global governance push. Okay, so global governance push is basically, like, for example, BRICS, in this BRICS summit, like we had, right? So in this BRICS summit, what they did, they talked about what United Nations Security Council reform. They talked about World Trade Organization reform. They talked about um, multilateralism and all that. They talked about G20 and all that too. That how we should reform all these institutions and how these should be expanded. They are still good old World War II era based systems. Okay, so BRICS has been pushing these things, and Antonio Guterres has been joining BRICS summits pretty much every year, and but the problem is, say, problem is that BRICS does challenge, BRICS does raises all these issues, but what happens is that there are certain problems within the BRICS itself, and I think there's a global south, and then the other half of the world does not want to actually, or doesn't seem very interested in making those reforms or working with the global south to make those reforms, simply because if you look at it, that the global north actually doesn't even care about um, their own blocks or their own institutions. So why would they care about UN or anything else? Look at G7. What G7 basically does. G7 is nothing but bunch of people gathered together to snort something, or to talk crap about somebody else, or basically have few beers here and there. That's about the it. When does actually anything concrete comes out of G7? Never. They do talk about lots of things, but why is that? Why never nothing comes out of it? It's simply because they want to push their own agenda, and it's not about how, it's not mutual actually. Okay, they invite few guests here and there, basically just to show that, hey, see, we are still this and that, we will fund you, but it's rarely it's mutual. I mean, yeah, India goes there to G7 too, but what comes out of it? Nothing. I haven't heard or read any news where India says that yeah, they were benefited by G7. Or Brazil was there too, South Africa was there too. But have they been benefited by it? No, none of them are benefited by it. Why do you think they stick with BRICS? Because they see this thing happening over there, that how G7 actually functions or what happens over there. So they learn their lesson. That's why they always want to be in BRICS, because they know grass is not greener on the other side. Okay. Now, so after all this, okay, after all this, if we see, so BRICS challenges, that was the number 4 point. Okay. Now, in alternative financial institutions, so I think I didn't mention the NDB and all that, right? NDB, contingency reserve arrangement and whatnot, these institutions are there too. And then also there are a few other things that BRICS has done to really uh, provide this insurance for the companies that actually want to invest somewhere else. Okay, so that's called investment guarantee funds. Okay, so these things, BRICS have done a very good job of it. And if you look at it, the BRICS countries are the ones that are leading in fintech, that is financial technical technologies, right? Financial technologies. Why? Because that's where the need is, that's where the demand is, right? Need is mother of all invention. So that's what happens. Hmm? Now, now the question really is that we come to our next point, that is where BRICS falls short. Like I said, that it's not all good and gravy with BRICS too. BRICS has its own set of challenges, own set of controversies, own set of problems. In fact, in if you look at it, even in this BRICS summit, okay, early on in the January and February, Egypt and Ethiopia couldn't actually get along on certain issues, and they failed to sign the joint declaration of that meeting. They couldn't sign it. So all of a sudden, Reuters published that there is a crack in BRICS, and whatever way they can sensationalize it, but but that doesn't work. That rarely works actually. But so, anyways, so and then you saw how there was a 4 year tension between India and China at the border, right? So all these things are there. The BRICS has its own cracks. Now, where BRICS falls short. So number one thing is that there is no unified currency. When I say no unified currency, I mean currency as in uh, payment and settlement, unified payment and settlement. Let's not, and that's what I mean when I say currency, unified currency at least. I'm not saying currency in terms of the paper currency or something. Okay, that's not what I mean. All right. So there is no, BRICS doesn't have any unified currency yet. uh, it's fragmented. It's I would say multiple efforts in the same direction, but it's not a concentrated effort in one direction. So that's where it falls short. And not to mention, okay, the BRICS has been talking about introducing BRICS currency every time there is a BRICS summit. And if BRICS countries are pissed off at the Western countries, then they immediately talk about, well, don't do it. We will introduce BRICS currency, okay? We will introduce BRICS currency. So they start they start talking about BRICS currency. But I think President Putin actually once said himself, he admitted that we are not going to see BRICS currency, at least not in our lifetime. Okay, I mean, in his lifetime, that is. Why? Because simple thing, it's not that easy to introduce a currency, okay, or a unified currency the way we know it right now. When once we enter the 100% into a complete crypto world, a digital currency world order, I think not just a thing. In fact, I think unified currency will be there. Okay, unified currency will be there. So there is no unified currency for now. Another reason for not having a currency that way, BRICS currency the way we know it, is that um, India opposes the whole BRICS currency idea. Then if you look into it, then India opposes the idea. Then you have Brazil opposes the idea. Then China, South Africa opposes the idea. There, see these countries. They have a valid point. All right, the valid point is that if you do that BRICS currency, then chances are that down the line, maybe 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Uh, it will also take the route of what? It will take the it will go the same route as the dollar. Okay, the 4 or 5 BRICS countries may start to abuse that BRICS currency as such, and world will face the same problem as we are facing right now with the dollar. It's just that somebody else will be on the receiving end. But then again, if somebody else is on the receiving end, even though somebody else is on the receiving end, what good does it do? Nothing. And it's not just that. It's not just that. See, when you introduce a common currency like that, then there is a debt problem that comes in. Okay, the debt problem is never solved by these currencies. The whole idea of introducing the dollar as a reserve currency, one of the point of the dollar as a reserve currency when IMF was there, that um, that is going to solve the debt problem, the countries that actually go in debt or fall short in debt. So they introduced IMF and all to help with that, but it never helped them. And to really understand the nuances, you will have to go read this thing on IMF website. Okay, and there is a very good story about it. So BRICS, having a unified BRICS currency is actually not going to solve a problem. It's only going to create more problems. Why would you want 4 or 5 countries, just 4 or 5 BRICS major member countries, to really run the show? Why would you want that? I don't want that. I mean, why? So all 54 African countries are less than other 5 members that are there? No, that's the whole point of it. You want equitable world. You want a world that is where the countries are judged or assessed based on the value they provide rather uh, than how much of military hardware you have. Hmm? So that's why BRICS currency. I mean, I'm not a supporter of that. But unified currency in terms of unified payment system, settlement system could be varied, diverse, that's fine. But having a unified payment system, yes, I'm all for it. I think BRICS Pay integrated with stable coin will do that job. Okay, but so far none. It's all done. It is just nothing but a media buzz so far. Okay, as a scarecrow. Yeah, we will do it. We will do it. We will do it. So that they can get threatened with 10% or 100% tariff, whatever, whatever the person feels like saying. Then another problem that BRICS has is the internal divisions. Okay. And I would say that even G7 has internal divisions. That's why we see tariffs among the G7 countries too. But at the end of the day, G7 does not make its differences public. Hmm? G7 doesn't do that. But in BRICS, I mean, those things actually become public pretty quickly. Like for example, India China border dispute. And just recently, when the Pakistan sponsored terrorism happened in India, then China was actually covertly supporting Pakistan behind the scenes, providing the satellite intel and all that, even though it didn't work, but they were doing it. Then you have Ethiopia and Egypt. Ethiopia and Egypt have their own another level of conflicts and problems. They have water conflicts, they have other conflicts too, regional conflicts too. That Ethiopia says that, hey, we are better than Egypt. Egypt said that, no, we are better than you. Ethiopia says that, no, you cannot be into National Security Council. We cannot be a full member of it. Egypt said that, no, you cannot be full member of it. All that thing is there. Then you have Iran, UAE. Iran and UAE has another problem, that they have their typical West Asia, Middle Eastern problem. What that is, either are you Shia, are you Sunni, what is your denomination, what is your denomination, all those things, all the good stuff. And the outcome is that it creates certain things. There are certain divergences. These things actually create divergence, and these things actually create lack of trust as well. Trust to an extent, I mean, because these things impact the trade. Like, look at China and in India, for example. India and China had a trade volume of almost $150 billion before Doklam 2020. Okay. And after all that happened, then India immediately started to cut ties with China. India banned almost 50 Chinese apps straight up. That was almost $50 billion loss for China, $50 billion annual loss. Not to mention that trade volume dropped all of a sudden. Now that trade volume is way below $100 billion. I mean, I don't have the actual number, but it is below $100 billion. Still, there is a trade, but doesn't it create the problem? Right? It could have been more, but China now lost 160 70 billion dollars. Now let me put this in perspective for you. That India's trade with United States is just $80 billion. Think about it. And India actually canceled that much trade with China. So India and China were doing pretty good trade partners. But ultimately, when China did that, then it hurt the trade. And and lots of times, in fact, lots of global South countries are pain in the rear too. Like, for example, look at Pakistan. Whatever reason, we are not going to get into the reason. Actually, I still have to make a video on one of the comments that one of my viewers actually posted. He requested me to actually answer those questions, so I will definitely do that. But those are very good points he made. I must admit that he made some points, but he thought that those are facts. So I have to clarify that those are not facts. Okay, but that's a different discussion. So, so there are internal divisions. Okay, now third thing is that even though BRICS is doing a great job of de-dollarization, trade in national currencies and all that, but dollar still dominates. Okay, dollar's share in the forex reserve is still around, I would say, 56% right now. It used to 58, 59%. Now it is 56%. It's still there. It's a lot. And countries, lots of countries, they rely on Swift payment system. Yes, of course they will rely on Swift payment system, simply because uh, economy or the trade runs by the trader. Traders, I mean, trade is not run by the government. Governments only make policies. But at the end of the day, traders are the one who do the import and export of things. So these traders actually put pressure on the government to go with a certain form of payment system or the payment mechanism. Okay. And for the most part, they choose the payment mechanism or payment system that is easy for them. Okay. So easy for them, so that they can get their money right away. Okay. And that's one thing that BRICS countries have been working on. And to, a, to an extent they have been very successful in it as well, is the immediate payment, not after a week, not after 2 weeks, not after a month. Immediate payment. So, and that was the beauty of Swift. That Swift, you do the trade, you get your money right away. Okay. And then there is dollar denominated debt markets too. Okay. Pretty much every debt is handled in dollar right now. Nobody handles the debt in any other currency. Why? Because dollar is, because of the reserve, standard dollar became the safe haven currency. Okay. Then for the countries, lots and lots of countries are out there, who actually still invest in treasury bonds, even though this year actually number has dropped this year. But even though number dropped, but still, if you go, I had made a video on this thing too. So over the years, in past 4 years, it was $100 billion, 121, then 90, like that. Last year it was around 95, 96. Then this year it was $80 billion so far. But that number has dropped like 29% or 30% around that. But it is still there. It's not zero at all. Okay. And so dollar is still there. You have to understand this. Dollar is still there. And de-dollarization does not mean that a country totally stops the trade. De-dollarization simply means that there are certain traders, businesses in a given for a given country. Those businesses or entities, they decide to trade in a non-dollar denomination currency. That's all it means. It does not mean that country is getting rid of dollar somewhere. Okay. Yes, government can push their traders to say that, hey, use these currencies, otherwise we will do whatever, right? But at the end of the day, traders also have the say. Why? Because that's what runs the export. That's what actually contributes to the GDP. Hmm? So so it's a mutual, but for the most part, traders definitely listen because of the patriotism and the nationalism that is taught to us from the get go. So, but dollar is still there nonetheless. Okay. And even though, yes, lots of things are going on. And in fact, I still think that, yes, 4 5 years up until 2030, I think uh, trade in national currencies will be little bit, I mean, it will take off. Is doing its job. But after 2030, I think that this thing is gonna take off. This is gonna be zoomy. Okay. And what's going to happen is that pretty much most of these African countries and all, they are going to trade in national currencies. And in fact, I think that something major is going to happen. I talked about this thing in my last video. Hmm? And I'm going to say this thing again. Chances are, chances are that African Union as a unit, as a union, be considered to join BRICS. That's what's going to happen next year. Just watch. Now, another aspect where BRICS falls short is the lack of cohesion. Okay. Lack of cohesion, as in that lack of institutional instinct. Then, like, everyone is making an effort, but they're all making it's all scattered all over the place, right? So, when you say cohesion, as in that there is no, like, for example, India proposed that, hey, BRICS should have all BRICS countries should have a tariff free trade agreement and this and that. But not much has been done on it. India just proposed this thing in this BRICS summit. Then again, technically, the way BRICS is considered to be an economic bloc, you would expect BRICS countries to have automatic free trade agreement or some sort of trade agreement between the BRICS countries, but that's not the case either. Why? Because of there are many reasons, but one of the main reasons I would say is that China's trading policies, those are very shady, and their intent is from the get go is to kill the local market to help their own companies. And so they don't want competition, they want to kill the competition, and that those type of trading practices, they normally don't work. Okay. It will work for to an extent, but not after a point. All right. So lack of cohesion, like for example, there is no BRICS headquarter. BRICS just work like G20, like countries gather and there's a chairmanship, the presidential thing of the country becomes president, and they hold the chairmanship or whatever, and then they run the show for that particular year. Then and then like I said earlier, that they failed to release the joint communique and whatnot, not the declaration. Declaration comes out of after comes out after the fact, the after the main leader meeting and whatnot, that they agreed in joint declaration was signed by everybody, but the joint communique was not. Okay. Then there is NDB. NDB is there. It is hundred some billion dollars, 150 billion dollars and whatnot. But if you look at it, then uh, compared to World Bank or IMF and all that, it's still pretty small. It's not as big as these bodies. So it's gonna grow over the period of time, but it is still small. And also you have to understand, NDB is just in China. NDB doesn't have any branch. I don't know if there is any branch in India or any other country. When technically it should be there, right? Then BRICS doesn't have any headquarter. They talked about it, but it was supposed to be in Republic of Congo in Bangui. Bangui. I know Bangui is there, but I don't remember if it is in Republic of Congo or somewhere else. I think it is Republic of Congo. It was supposed to be there, uh, but nothing has been done yet. So 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 that's where another problem is, a lack of cohesion, right? So when technically you should have all that, and it should work as a very tight knit machinery, right? And all the major parts, they all are contributing to the progress or whatnot, but that's not the case. Look at Iran was getting hammered by Israel and whatnot, but not one BRICS country actually said anything. Yeah, there's some said, Russia said, China said, then India was with Israel for their own things, and their own interests are involved in it. But all in all, Uh, and then India also said to Iran, India also said that, hey, yeah, whatever it is you bombed and all, now get out of there. No, keep things under control. You have no right to bomb Iran and whatnot. Whatever happened, that's fine. Now end this thing. So India did say all that later on. But at the end of the day, there are problems like these, right? So so that's another aspect of it. That's another, I would say, roadblock in a way in BRICS's growth. So let's see how these countries, BRICS countries, are going to sort this out. That's another level of challenge, and I think that is the biggest challenge. Okay, so for example, India China difference. India China are working on those issues, certain things. Unless they sort out their border disputes, I seriously don't think that lots of other things. I mean, they can work on their trade and all, but that rift or lack of trust will still be there, right? The question really is that which one of the leaders are going to back down and say that, yeah, let's end this border dispute instead of making it an ego clash, right? Same thing with the Ethiopia and Egypt too. Hey, it's water. Let's work it out. Let's sort it out and distribute the water, share it. So how it all depends, and but lots of times it's the internal politics actually that stops them from making major geopolitical decisions. Okay, it's because of the domestic politics. So but at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, if you look at it, then what is the end game of the BRICS? Is BRICS is going to really continue uh, continue as a broken system? I mean, if you lack certain things, then yeah, it is a broken system. That needs polishing, that needs work. Yes, lots of things have been brought together, but it is still a system that requires lots of work. And I'm pretty sure things are going to be worked out. But what is the end game of the BRICS? I mean, does BRICS really even talk about it? That, hey, how we should evolve as a bloc? Do BRICS leaders ever ask this question to each other? I, I mean, I don't know really. I mean, I haven't heard any of the leaders really mention this type of thing. Even though, yes, last year in the Kazan summit, we saw that that India and China, they actually at least shook hands over there and they sorted that thing out, that yeah, let's move on with that thing, and we have done this thing a lot, and let's sort this out. So clearly it happened because people talked behind the scenes, but still, I mean, do BRICS countries really think about how do we evolve? How are we going to evolve? Because each country that actually hosts the BRICS summit, they have their own agenda. They have their own what do you call it? They have their own image, global image, and based on that, they do it. Hmm? So let's see how this plays out next year. Or BRICS do the key set? I mean, can they settle their disputes, disputes? Then can they launch the unified payment system? Can they come up with the unified trading policies? At least that will entice other countries to join BRICS, right? Can they create transparent or scalable currency framework, whatnot? Can they come up with all these things? Do they even think about it? That's the question, right? So how all that is going to play out, only time will tell. Okay? Only time will tell. I really don't know. But based on what I'm seeing, yes, things are happening. There are challenges. There are challenges. It's not just the BRICS, right? The challenges are there, the domestic politics and geopolitics. Then um, there are other compulsions because of which countries cannot do lots of things. Okay. So at the end of the day, if you look at it, then uh, if we talk about in nutshell, in summary, real quick, okay, so summary is like where BRICS is making headway, expanding in trade local currencies, building alternatives to IMF and SWIFT, then controlling key resources, oil, lithium, gold, grains, right? Then and then they're gaining the diplomatic weight across the global south, because of which global south has actually started to raise their concern and voice. But where BRICS fall short, they don't have any common currency. They still have strategic distrust among members, right? They have institutional weakness. There is no headquarter. There is only one NDB, but there are no other uh, uh, the entities or other banks other than NDB, right? And NDB in itself is very small compared to its other institutions like World Bank or IMF. Then there is a still continued reliance on Swift financial system, so that is not going away anytime soon either. So there are certain areas where BRICS fall short. Okay, so uh, once again, like I said, do BRICS really think about all these things, that hey, how BRICS can evolve, or they just use it for their political propaganda and whenever it suits them or whatnot, right? Depending on the weight of a country, like if it was Russia, Russians used it for their advantage, and then Brazil did it for its own advantage. India will probably do it for its own advantage. But is will there be any kind of talk where BRICS can say that, yeah, let's say if I'm a country, can what is it that BRICS has to offer that I should join BRICS right immediately? I look at it other than NDB and contingency reserves. Yeah, if there was FTA, free trade agreement, automatic free trade agreement between the BRICS countries, then or some sort of framework like that, yeah, of course I will join. But is it gonna happen? We don't know. Or if there was a common payment system, there was something like that, yeah, I will join as a country, right? So those things are still being works. They are under works or they are not. All that only time will tell, and I will definitely keep you posted on those things. So this is it for this video, guys. Please do like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, take care. Bye.